I've been familiar with it for a long time, and in fact, I've seen the tapes. I've got them somewhere. God knows where now. I will say this in another exclusive on YMH. Exactly a year ago last week, I was shocked. A woman calls me up and she's like, "Do you have a secure line for me to talk to?" Right? Like I'm like in the cone of silence or something. I'm like, "Okay, yeah." So I get on a WhatsApp call with her and I'm like, "What do you have?" She says, "A guy sent me a tape of this model/actress 4 years ago, and she is tossing his salad, and yes, oral, yes, eat the scrum." And I said, "Great, how do you know this guy?" "Well, he's a photographer, he's based in Florida. I was doing some stuff with him." "Okay," I said, "who is the person we're talking about here? Before I call my lawyer and get anybody involved in this, you have to tell me." So then she says her name is Meghan and she's about to marry a prince in England. Oh, what is true? I'm going to show you the email communications and you'll see why the woman in Canada who called me has it. I've got you seen Nudie Rudy Meghan too. I've seen more than one thing. Lady Colin Campbell just said what many people were never supposed to hear. She didn't hint. She didn't speculate. She didn't ask questions. She stated it plainly. She said there are photographs of Meghan Markle that were never meant to exist in public. Photographs she has been aware of for a long time. Photographs that were quietly removed, scrubbed and buried before Meghan ever walked into royal life. And according to Lady Colin Campbell, this wasn't an accident. These images weren't deleted because they were embarrassing. They weren't erased because they were youthful mistakes. They were removed because they directly contradicted the future that was being built. Lady Colin explained that once Meghan's path toward royalty became clear, certain parts of her past became impossible to explain. Not controversial, impossible. The kind of history that doesn't survive public scrutiny once a crown enters the picture. And that's what makes this different, because people don't work this hard to erase harmless memories. They erase things that don't fit. They erase evidence that threatens a narrative already in motion. Lady Colin described the effort as deliberate, organized, calm, not panic, but precision. The kind of cleanup that happens when powerful interests understand that some stories can never be told out loud. And once she said that, the conversation changed forever, because the real question was no longer whether the images existed. The question became why they mattered enough to disappear. Before royalty, before titles, before the palace, there was another world Meghan Markle learned to navigate: yachts. Not holiday yachts, not casual getaways. These were controlled environments. Guest lists were handwritten, phones were taken away, discretion wasn't suggested, it was enforced. Lady Colin Campbell describes these spaces as places where power concentrates quietly. Billionaires, producers, financiers, political insiders, people who don't advertise influence but distribute it. In those settings, people are watched. Who speaks too much? Who drinks too much? Who understands the room? According to Lady Colin, Meghan wasn't reckless in these environments. She wasn't loud, she wasn't careless. She observed, she learned. She positioned herself carefully. These were not parties. They were auditions without scripts. Access led to more access. Invitations led to introductions. Introductions led to movement across cities. Monaco, the Hamptons, Dubai, Beverly Hills. Each stop reinforcing familiarity with elite behavior long before the public ever associated her with power. This is where the narrative shifts, because once you understand yachts as professional environments, the pattern starts making sense. When stories are accidental, they look messy. This one doesn't. Lady Colin Campbell places this pattern across years, not moments. In the early 2000s, Meghan's academic timeline already raised quiet questions. Long stretches away from university, more time traveling than studying. By 2006, she appeared in elite social settings in the Hamptons, attending gatherings where powerful figures circulated freely, long before she had public relevance. By 2013, she was spending extended periods in New York. At the same time, certain elite figures were present there, staying for weeks at a time, not days. By 2015, she was being flown internationally for private events connected to Soho House, not for acting roles, not for charity work. By 2018, as her royal engagement approached, panic reportedly surfaced around material from her past that could not survive public exposure. This isn't coincidence, it's progression. Each phase builds on the last, each year adds access, confidence, and positioning. And when viewed together, the idea of a sudden fairy tale collapse under its own weight. This was not a lucky break, it was a long climb. At some point, even silence starts to draw attention. During her time on Suits, people around Meghan noticed something unusual. Constant international travel, business-class flights, luxury accommodations, a lifestyle that moved faster than her acting income suggested. According to Lady Colin Campbell, cast members quietly questioned how it was being funded. The numbers didn't align with a mid-level television salary. Then came another detail. Lady Colin stated that Meghan was earning significant sums per trip, amounts far exceeding her acting pay. These earnings weren't connected to her television work. They came from travel tied to elite social environments. Again, no accusations are made, just arithmetic. When someone moves constantly, lives well, and spends freely, money must come from somewhere. And when that source isn't public, questions follow. Not loudly, not publicly, quietly. This is where understanding replaces speculation. Because by this stage, Meghan Markle wasn't drifting upward. She was moving deliberately. The doors were opening faster, the distances grew shorter, the circles grew smaller. And once someone reaches that level of proximity to power, the story is no longer about ambition, it's about what happens when the past threatens the future. At some point, the story stopped being about where Meghan had been. It became about what was erased. Lady Colin Campbell stated that photographs existed, private photographs taken in restricted environments. These weren't paparazzi shots, they weren't red carpet images. They were taken in places where cameras weren't welcome and privacy was enforced. And yet, they existed. According to Lady Colin, these images didn't slowly fade away. They were removed deliberately. Copyright strikes, takedown notices, quiet pressure applied in the right places. A cleanup that happened years before Meghan ever became a royal. That detail matters because erasing material at that level requires reach. It requires coordination, and it requires a reason strong enough to justify the effort. The question isn't what the photos showed. The question is why someone made sure the public would never see them. Lady Colin suggested it wasn't about shame, it was about preservation. Once a certain future was locked in, those images could no longer exist alongside it. And when history starts disappearing, it usually means something important is being protected. As Lady Colin traced the connections, one uncomfortable reality emerged. Elite worlds are small. The same names appear in different places. The same circles overlap. The same private environments host the same faces again and again. Lady Colin referenced associations that raise concern not because of accusations, but because of proximity. Certain yachts, certain social settings, certain figures whose names carry weight and controversy. She made it clear this wasn't about guilt by association. It was about understanding how tightly connected elite spaces really are. When people move through those circles long enough, separation becomes difficult to maintain. Discretion becomes the currency. Silence becomes the rule. And that's why, according to Lady Colin, even the suggestion that certain images could resurface caused alarm. Because once the public starts connecting dots, control begins to slip. And in worlds built on control, that's the real threat. Inside the palace, the mood reportedly changed. According to Lady Colin Campbell, early inconsistencies had been noticed. Odd travel timelines, introductions that didn't quite line up, details that raised quiet eyebrows among aides trained to spot risk. But once the engagement was public, questioning stopped. At that point, Meghan Markle wasn't just an actress anymore. She was a royal asset, a brand, a symbol of modernization, and symbols are protected. The palace, known for managing optics with precision, reportedly feared one thing above all else: exposure. Any suggestion of elite yacht culture or buried histories would ignite headlines the monarchy couldn't control. So silence became the strategy, not investigation, not confrontation, silence. Lady Collins suggested the institution didn't fully understand what it had absorbed until it was already locked in. By then, the cost of pulling back was higher than the cost of staying quiet. And that's when the story stopped being personal. It became institutional. This is where everything comes together. Lady Colin Campbell didn't describe Meghan Markle as careless. She didn't describe her as naive. She described her as deliberate. According to an insider who allegedly witnessed those elite years firsthand, Meghan wasn't there to be impressed. She was there to observe, to study who mattered, to understand how power moved through rooms without being announced. While others posed, she watched. While others celebrated, she calculated. And then came the line that reframed everything. Real success isn't about where you are. It's about who believes you belong there. When Lady Colin repeated that quote, she paused. Then she said 5 words that landed like a verdict. That explains everything about her. The phrase yacht girl era wasn't meant as an insult. It was a diagnosis, a description of a phase where positioning mattered more than publicity, where access mattered more than credit. It wasn't a scandal, it was an audition. An audition that didn't end with a role in Hollywood, but with entry into one of the most protected institutions in the world. And that's why this story hasn't gone away. Because buried narratives don't stay buried forever. They resurface in fragments, in photos that refuse to disappear, in questions that won't stay quiet. Lady Colin didn't close the case. She cracked it open. And as more pieces surface, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. This wasn't about chance. It wasn't about luck. And it certainly wasn't about a fairy tale. It was about strategy. And the world has only just begun to realize how carefully that role was played.